parenting meeting on the 13th of March 2025. It is now 7 p.m. and I would like to start this meeting. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded for publication on the Council's website. Apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillor Alik, Laura Hall, Thurrock Open Door representative, and Tina Russell, Deputy Director, SET, CALMS and Partnerships. Are there any further apologies? No, thank you. Item 2, minutes. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on 21st January 2025, as outlined in the agenda, are approved as a correct record. Are there any comments on the accuracy of the minutes? No, thank you. The minutes are approved. Item 3, items of urgent business. No items of urgent business have been received. Item 4, declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations of interest to make? No, thank you. Item 5, Thurrock Young Voices. Can I ask the Chair and Vice Chair of Thurrock Young Voices to present their report, please?
Hi everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Jasmine and this is Crystal. Our goals for 2025 are to do more inspections as young inspectors, to get some more members for our groups, to be part of the Eastern Region Care Leaver Forum, to plan and host another local offer information day for care leavers, to plan and host at least 4 power participation workshops this year, to give some more ideas for making sure young people are prepared to become adults and going out into the big world, to make sure we support a new group for the young parents, to work on how care experience as a protected characteristic in Thurrock will benefit us. We will give you updates on how we were getting on with our plans each time we come to the corporate parenting committee meetings. I talked about Christmas last time, so I won't go over that again.
Me and Jasmine both did the first inspection of a semi-independent home on the Friday the 7th of February. We really enjoyed it. We interviewed a young person and one of the staff. It was tricky as we used an interpreter to speak to the young person, but we managed it in the end. We wrote our report and sent them back to the commissioning. We are looking forward to the next one. We are looking into slightly changing the questions on the report as it repeating itself. We are having a monthly space in the family hub for a group of young parents. We are not young parents ourselves, but we know how important it is for them to have their own group. We hope that once they have their group up and running, they might like to come here and see you talk about how it is going.
3 of us ran the power participation workshop on the 18th of February. We had 7 workers, including a head of service, a team manager and a foster carer. We always make changes and improve our workshop so that it is never the same each time. We had a conversation about how to best support young people towards leaving care and independence. It was really useful. We had an open discussion about how it feels to leave care and for relationships to end. We talked about relationships that are really important to us and how they've impacted our lives. I think everyone really enjoyed it, and so did we. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for that report. As always, it's lovely what you do, and thank you for doing what you do as well, the whole group of you. Any questions, anyone, please? No? Oh, yeah. Councillor Siston?
I probably should know this really, but can you describe what a semi-independent living space would be like?
Do you mean how the house looked like inside?
No, no. I mean, who would be living there? Who would it be for? And how would you live?
Yeah, thank you. I'll answer that one. So with our semi-independent, it's generally our 16 to 18-year-olds. And then we have what's called supported living, which is where they become 18, but we still support them. So yeah, 16 to 18-year-olds. But just to be clear that we wouldn't ever put a 16-year-old into supported accommodation who's in education, you know, in their GCSE year. So it's having left school.
Councillor Heath.
Thank you. Not really a question, but I'd just like to say that, you know, I'm really pleased with the work that you're doing for the Young Parents Group. I think that's really, really important. And I do look forward to hearing about that at future meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, just a couple of bits from me. On the 12th of March at Tilbury Family Hub, regular space at a family hub for a group of care experienced young parents. Do you have plans to move this on to other hubs in the area?
I can answer that one. Yes, we've got plans and we've got dates to move them around the hub, so across Thurrock, so that's accessible for all the young parents wherever they are. So we're kind of moving them around. We've got the dates. We're not advertising the venue until there's a sign up, so it's invite only, so we're just letting the young people know that they're actually coming.
Thank you. It's good that obviously not just in one place in the borough. Tilbury's obviously very important, but it's nice to have it all around the borough, so that's really good. Power of Participation workshop on the 18th of February. Can I ask, was there any councillors invited to that? Because I don't think I heard anything from it, but I don't know if others did or not, just asking.
No, they're advertised internally really, but no, not as far as I'm aware.
Okay, thanks. I just think it'd be a lovely thing for not just myself, but other councillors. Maybe all 49 wouldn't go, being realistic. But it'd be nice if more come along so we can see what you're actually doing in that, you know. So just be a nice thing for the future, maybe. I didn't know where to put this in the agenda, but I'm going to say it now. It's to do with young carers, of course. Young person, sorry. I'll read it anyway. I would just like to acknowledge the Foster Care Awards celebration evening on the Friday before last. The commitment of our fostering team is second to none. New foster carers were acknowledged, as also were foster carers that have been doing the service for 5 to 25 years. They was given awards. These foster carers are truly inspirational and, in my thinking, amazing people to open their lives to young persons who are in need. The impact these people have on young persons in Thurrock is tremendously positive, and I would like to finish by saying thank you on behalf of all Thurrock's children in care and care leavers for everything you do. Thank you. That's for the foster carers, obviously, but obviously that affects you, which adds on your life, isn't it? So, would you like to say anything, foster carers?
Yeah, we had a really lovely evening. We do have a lot of support from the fostering team. They really do support us. As I say, we had a really great evening. Sorry, I wasn't expecting to get asked a question. Usually we just sit here. But yeah, no, it was lovely. As I say, we do get support. We do have a lot of backup from Liz, Elise, Sandra, and our SSWs. So yeah, thank you to them for holding the event. It was really lovely.
Thank you to that. Yeah, there was 4 or 5 of us here that went to the meeting, and it was just a wonderful evening. So, Councillor Spate?
I was only just going to echo exactly what you said, Mark. I mean, I popped along as well, and it was a great night. And the work of all concerned was, I mean, I said this to people the other night, so I'm not going to repeat, but just to endorse what you said. I don't think we can say enough thanks to those people who give up their time for fostering, but also the support work. And it's, you know, you can see the growing engagement now through Young Voices, which is it's appropriate that you mention it here, where the Young Voices teams who are coming through that system of care, and some of them will have been through fostering, and we're getting a really meshed together system now in Thurrock, which is tremendously commendable, and all those concerned from where we were probably 4, 5, 6 years ago where it was very disjointed. It's really good to see.
Yeah, last but not least, I'd just like to say, I think we're all, well, sorry, okay.
Sorry, I should also say about Kim, Paula and Carol and also Jenny, who sorted out a load of the decorations. So, yeah, I mean, they made the venue look amazing, and I know they do a lot of things in the background as well, so I need to remember those as well.
Of course, they deserve recognition, they should get a recognition. So just thank you to the foster carers, and thank you to you young voices for, you've not had a wonderful start in life, obviously, but this sort of links in with it, and to everyone, the officers and everyone, for what they do for each other. So, thank you. If you'd like to go in there, you can, of course. Sorry, nearly forgot. Item 6, Children's Social Care Performance. Can I ask Elise McQueen to present the report, please?
Thank you. I'm going to present the report on the understanding that it's been read and just say a few key highlights. Thank you. So the children looked after population in Thurrock has remained relatively stable at the end of Q3 at 273 children, and there's been small fluctuations in the number of children coming into and leaving care, and we've had a high number of young people turning 18. There was 38 children looked after who were UASC, and we're going to expect this number to rise to 45 from January due to the Home Office confirming new threshold figures in the region. So previously we were 44 and it's gone up by one child. So that will be our highest number. The number of missing episodes has seen a significant reduction. If you look at the comparison of last year to this year, you can see that there's a lot less children going missing and a lot more work we're doing with children about where they are and who they're staying with and who they're visiting, and them confiding in us. The timeliness of initial health assessments still remains an area of poor performance. The proportion of care leavers in suitable accommodation remains consistently high. And the engagement in education, employment and training is an area of focus. And if you look on the chart, you can see kind of since May, it's had a steady upcline. It's still tiny, but it's gone up to 51%. And that's driven by targeted support initiatives. There's still work to do in that area, but it is improving slightly. We had a lower number of children come into care in December, you'll see on the graph, but also we've got 25 young people staying with current carers. So that's 25 young people who've turned 18 and remaining with their foster carers, living with their foster carers. We've got 25 young people in university, and we had 3 graduations this year, which was medicine, dentistry, economics and history. And I just thought it was worth a mention because I don't normally mention the highlights. The visits to our children is 95%, that we see them in timescale. And for those 5% that we don't see in timescale, it's generally 1 or 2 days out. And within that figure of 95%, we tend to see children more often than not. So for example, we might see children 2 or 3 times in 1 week, 2 or 3 times in 1 month. It's just not one visit. Children placed at distance has improved just slightly in Q3 by 1%. It was 32 and it's come down to 31. That's it. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for the report. Any questions? Councillor Heath?
Yeah, it's about the young people from university. So are they supported the same as they would be if they still remained in Thurrock, if they're living away from, if they're living in at university?
I'm nodding instead of speaking. So in our local offer, we've got a very good package for our young people that go to university. So obviously there's a kind of financial package and then the grants from that they can apply for, but they still have their same PA support, whether they live in Scotland or the North or Wales or Coventry. Yeah, they still have the same level of support. And some of our young people are in university but remaining with their foster carers and travel from their foster carers to university if they're local. So it's all types of different support we offer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? I've got a few myself. The number of missing episodes, sorry, page 27, the number of missing episodes, it's dropped dramatically, which on the face of it is a very good thing. Is it because of, in the agenda last 6 weeks ago, whatever it was, and we had the away from placement without authorisation process? Is that a lot to do with it?
I'm going to the page, but I can answer that without coming to it. I definitely think that that's got something to do with it, yes, in terms of absent without permission and actually missing. But I think there's still some where we've done a lot of work with our young people to be telling us where they have been missing, but the communication is been greatly improved.
Thanks for that. Thank you. I've got a few questions, so bear with me. Initial health assessments was always going to be brought up, I'm afraid. 24.5% of these assessments being completed in time. I do believe Ofsted have now got involved in this. Could you just give us a detail of that, please?
In terms of Ofsted being involved in the health assessments, no, I don't know if health can answer. Is that something you're aware of? I think, okay. Just to say, they're involved in terms of when they do an inspection, and they would be looking at the interests of children and their health needs being met, and they would comment on that if that's not. So in terms of that, but I'll let you finish there.
It's okay, Chair, if I just come in, thank you. Yeah, it's just to say, after the ILEX, so after the Ofsted inspection, Ofsted did obviously pick up about the initial health assessments, and then they wrote to the ICB about it. So they have got involved. That's how they've got involved that way, and are picking it up that way as well. So obviously, because they were so poor, but it's not something obviously that the local authority can pick up on. Thank you.
Sorry, I understood the question. I thought you meant nationally Ofsted are being involved in initial health assessments, which is why I was a bit surprised, but thank you.
Thanks for the answer. Would you like to? Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Right. 1920. Sorry about this. 1 second. In the graph on page 1920, page 20, it goes over 2 pages. Children looked after, ceased to be looked after. It's got the figures there. The reasons, the CLA end reason, first column, second column 23, 24, third column Q1 24, 25. When you add the figures up though, they don't tally. So the middle column comes to 173, but it says 147. And the end column comes to 92, and it says 89. Can anyone give me a reason why they're, 3 variants ain't massive, but the other one's 26 variants. Is anyone, any idea why, please? I add them up 3 times, I'm definitely right, but I'm just asking, so don't matter fooling myself. Sorry, Councillor Spate.
If you don't mind, rather than ask a separate, I was just going to add, on that, the graph, sorry, on the charts, I mean, the figures down below relate to Q3. I'm just wondering whether or not somehow we've got a mix up in putting the figures together on, because you got 23, 24, and then we're at Q1. Well, Q1 was obviously well in the middle of last summer, and we're virtually at the end of Q4. We're well into Q4. But I was actually going to ask why we were only doing those early figures. So if I can ask that question to your explanation here, and it may be that the answer that you're after combines with that.
Yeah, of course. It says in 5.12 above the graph that 89 children and young people has needs to be looked after. But like I said, when you add it up, it's actually 92 in that column. In the other columns, well, quite a way out. If you haven't got an answer, I'm happy for it to be emailed. But
No, I have got an answer, but it's more like a feeble excuse than an answer. So this is, I know, sorry, this is the new reporting schedule, and I just spoke to my colleague before we came, and I said that the graph that was put in had 4 columns, so it had Q1, Q2, Q3, and then as I was like obviously reading it before I came, I realised that 2 of the columns had dropped off. So yeah, so I actually had that in my notes to say so, but obviously it wasn't enough time to rectify or pull up the original graph, so I'm sorry about that. You can make a recommendation that I subsequently submit that graph, if that's okay, to go out with the minutes.
yeah, if we can do that, please. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, okay, make it an action. We'll sort it out after, yeah. I just pulled it up because it's in the report, it could look misleading. There's any reason. Just it needs to be, clarified sort of thing. So, thank you. Right, next question. Right, where are we? Sorry. Right, page 25, 5.32. At the end of Q3 2024, 69% of children had a primary need of abuse. I'm just checking what I've wrote down here, sorry. Yeah, compared to our statistical neighbours and England, the absent parenting is a lot higher here, and the abuse or neglect is a lot higher as well, but the others are lower. Do we report it differently to other authorities, or is there possibly a reason for this?
Okay, so the possible reason is that in terms of absent parenting, that refers to our unaccompanied, because they don't have their parents, and it may be that nationally that there's a lot less unaccompanied asylum seekers. I think that obviously there's guidance on our recording that we follow. Whether other people follow that, I can't answer to, but that could certainly be one of the explanations. Okay, so for example, if 80 people went, there was 80 missing episodes, and of that number, 75 accepted a return home interview and had the return home interview, that would be 100% of that 75. Does that make sense?
It just looks concerning because it says 100% and it's gone down to 97.3 and 95.8. But
Sorry, I didn't turn this off. And also, in terms of a return home interview, you might have a young person go missing, overnight, not say where they are, and then before the next day they have the return home interview, they might stay out that night as well, so they'll have one return home interview, so it might not count, so I'll have to check that. You know, it might be counted as one and not the 2 episodes, even though they've been seen.
Thank you. 35, 1 second. Oh, this is positive. Good. Page 35, 5.95, care leavers in education, employment and training. It was mid-50s, October, November 23. It dipped to about 40% May last year. We're back up to 51%. So I just want to say that although it's dipped down, it is noted that it has come back up now, and we're getting back to where we want to be, of course. Obviously, the higher the better, but it's good that it's going up again. So just thought I'd mention that. I don't like the sound of my own voice. I've just got some notes here. So yeah, can I ask why? Page 36, next page, suitable accommodation, 5.100. Why are we so high? We're in the 90, 95, 96% and that, and statistical neighbours are 86%, national 88%. Can you just let us know why we're so high? Because I think we're doing really well.
The suitable accommodation one? That's because we really care about our care leavers and make sure that the standard accommodation's good. And one of the things that we try to do is, with our young people, is for them to have viewings. And obviously we've got our PAs who go around and check the standard of accommodation. There's still 4.4% of children, young people that aren't in suitable. So we still strive to 100, but that's the main reason.
Yeah, it's obviously really good, but I just wanted to ask the question. So thank you for that.
Please, can I just say something? I'm not suggesting that other local authorities don't care, so I just want to make that clear for the minutes, because that could be misunderstood. So thank you.
Yeah, I understand that totally, but thanks for clearing that up as well. Yes, please. Yeah, thanks. Last question or comment, I believe. Next page, page 37, care leavers aged 19 to 21 in touch. Once again, really high. December 24 was 100%. Statistical neighbour, 89%. National, 92%. We're obviously doing the same as in the previous mention, something really well. Do you have anything you'd like to say? Or?
No, just that I expect it to be. I expect us to be in touch with our young people, and I think that's just a credit to the aftercare service who do that work and make sure that we're diligent over looking at the performance and recognising that the young people that may say that they may not want to speak to us or they're busy, and we make that extra effort.
Thank you for that, and thanks for everything you do, obviously, for this. Anyone got any questions? Anyone else? Councillor Sister, then.
Hi, just a couple of sort of linked things, really. It says 5.8, page 33, there's been a notable reduction in long-term fostering placements, going down from 95 to 78. And then it follows up that there's more children in foster placements with relatives and friends. So is that does that in the main account for the drop in foster care, or are there other things too?
No, the drop in foster care nationally is around recruitment, and the rise in children being placed with their family and kinship carers is because there's a greater drive to make sure that we exhaust all family members before we bring children into care, or if they're in care, then we can move them to family members if there is family there, because that's the right thing to do. So there's not necessarily a link between one and the other.
So can I just follow that up? So, because we're in, there seems to be, are there more children's homes being opened in Thurrock? Because I'm planning, Councillor Spate will know as well, there's quite a few homes coming up that are going to be used as small-scale children's homes. So I wonder if they're for Thurrock children, or would they be for other authorities?
It just depends what our commissioning arrangements is with those facilities, and if they're able to meet the needs of our children, because obviously it goes through extensive QA. we have kind of a bank of providers that we use first and foremost that we QA'd, but if others set up or operate in the borough, it's not necessarily that we would use them, but we would use them if they were good and they could meet the needs of our children. I mean, really, first and foremost, that you should be putting children in foster homes with foster parents. And really, I would prefer to avoid children's homes for children because they have multiple carers as parents. But if there's a good provision, our children's needs are complex and we can't make their needs locally in a foster carer, of course we would look locally.
Councillor Spate.
Yeah, I think just to pick up on what Cathy said, and it's not really a corporate parenting issue, but as we've got the expertise here this evening, my concern with these is some of them are clearly commercial operations, because we know, let's make no bones about it, some of this care is very expensive to provide. When you've got, I think there was one that was given approval the other day that it's basically 3 carers per 24 hours per child, and the cost of that care is going to be quite high. But nowhere in the process of planning did I see, and I looked through it, any input from our children's services department. And some of these homes, they're creating a degree of, I wouldn't say antipathy or antagonism, but there's a negative vibe coming out about it, which can't be good. I just wonder, and it's something I'll be raising if we have time, when we have another meeting this year, within the people thing. But do you in terms of looked after children, get any input at all from the planning? Are you asked by the planning teams, does this have an impact in terms of reducing or helping Thurrock's burden, and I use the word burden, but Thurrock's burden of care? So in other words, yes, by opening these homes, we're actually helping your service with taking kids in difficult situations and putting them in better situations within the borough. Or if it's a commercial operation servicing kids from further away and it's purely commercial, then we've got no exponential gain from it. And we risk, as I say, this antagonism towards children's services. I wondered, which would be useful for when I take it further, whether anybody here gets any input whatsoever in any of these new applications for children's homes.
Yeah, so no, but we can come back on it. I mean, I can discuss some points on it, but probably not to the degree of expertise that you would like. I probably would like to say about the difference between the kind of the commercial that you say and the ones who operate in the best interest of children. And I think that all would probably represent themselves in the best interest of children, but it's about the quality of our checks and our understanding of what we want for children. But we'll bring an expert back for that.
Yeah, I'll take. I think you've got 3 in your ward, haven't you? Have gone through in the last few months.
At least 2.
At least 2. So it's something that I would just say took up. I do apologise for taking up corporate parenting time, but I think if it is an important thing, and how we manage these centres, and they can be beneficial to Thurrock. So I thank you for your answer, and maybe it's something that I'll ask independent of this meeting for you to maybe put something into a report for people if we get around to discussing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment? Yeah.
Just as way of kind of feeding back as far as impact, Thurrock does have, because, sorry, I'm Sharon Hall, I'm the Deputy Director for the Children's Community Services within the area. And obviously the community services that provide the IHAs. So there are a lot of authorities that place looked after children in borough. And obviously one of the impacts that has is obviously it raises the number of IHAs within the borough, which is one of the reasons why we have had difficulty. We've seen a large increase in looked after children, what we call out-ins, coming from out of area into Thurrock over the last 2 years.
Sorry, Chair. So do those kids that go into those homes, I know they're not in care with us, But is there an example of financial contribution that we have to maybe make to them? And maybe it's probably the wrong time to have this, but just what you said, you know, there appears to be, there's a lot of negativity about this. And I'd like to dissuade that, because any kid that's in a better place has got to be a good thing. But it was interesting there. I sort of got a sense that there is some impact, not necessarily for corporate parenting, but for children's services.
Well, there's an impact on finite resources, isn't there, in relation to, obviously, I'm sorry, Councillor Spite, I don't know whether you've seen any past papers, but obviously with the increase in children needing IHAs, puts a pressure on local services.
Okay, thank you, Tara. Any more questions, Councillor Higby?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. It's just a quick question, really, regarding the looked after missing episodes and the massive decrease we've got. I know we haven't got Q4 figures through yet, but are there any indications so far that the trend is continuing, or whether the low figures were a one-off thing?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please? Sorry.
That's all right. So the looked after children missing episodes that have rapidly fallen, is there any indication from figures for this quarter that that trend is continuing, or is it too early to know that?
It's not too early to know, but I'd have to look at the performance chart to tell you, which means I'd have to log onto the system. So I don't have that to hand now, but I don't have any reason to believe that it's dropped.
It'll be similar, it's still staying low? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for the questions in it. Any more questions? No? Would the foster carers like to say anything on this? No? Okay, thank you. Right, recommendations then. So I've lost my page, right. For the reasons set out in this report, the committee has recommended that parents are cited on the work undertaken in the service to ensure good and improved performance and areas for development and areas for development and areas of success in CSC. Agreed? Yeah, thank you. Mrs. Members scrutinise the performance data and provide challenge to the service, relevant partners on how, as corporate parents, we are ambitious for our children and young people, provide appropriate services, keep children and young people safe, and promote good outcomes. Agreed? Thank you. I got through that somehow. Item 7. Progress report following a motion for care experience as a locally protected characteristic. Can I ask Trevor Willis to present the report, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. Just to say that there's been slow but steady progress within this area. And I think it's really important to recognise that any change within a large organisation can't happen overnight, and there are lots of moving parts that we need to consider. But there has been significant strides within the commissioning services with regards to one part of the questions raised in the tender, specifically when looking at the social value question. And now it's going to specifically ask how those applying for commissioned services are going to create opportunities for care experienced young people. This is going to allow us to specifically hold companies to account in how they deliver services, but also in how they deliver opportunities to young people as well. And it's really pleasing that this approach is being implemented across all the children's and adult commissioning, and is in the process of being agreed by housing commissioning as well. So it's hoped that this will provide a number of opportunities for our young people. Progress with looking at how we can include our commitment to promoting care experienced young people within our recruitment process has revealed some challenges. However, policy officers have now been appointed, and they're going to be tasked with looking at this as part of the new HR policy review. Regarding apprenticeships across the council, recent constraints have limited the number of apprenticeships that the council offer, and therefore consideration and focus needs to be given upon identifying private businesses who will be able to offer a greater scope of opportunity as well as minimise the financial strain across the council. To that end, contact has been made with the Business Support and Economic Development Service to look at how we can progress this area. And it's really important to acknowledge that Thurrock is really full of opportunity, both now and I think optimistically in the future. And it's really important that we make sure that our young people and our care experience young people have really good access to these opportunities within private business as well. Any changes need to consider carefully the impact upon our young people, and it's important that everything that we do is done with rather than to our young people. And it's really important that we get it right the first time rather than keep coming back and doing things again and again and again. Therefore, consultation with our newly appointed young ambassador will be central to any further successes. And there are now 2 new leaving care team managers in post, and it's envisaged that they, alongside the young ambassadors, will be able to report on further progress within this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the report. Any questions? Councillor Spate?
Yeah, basically, one of the things that this is supposed to do is try and knit down deep connectivity with local employers and saying to them, look, you know, really, can you when you're contracting for work with us and doing this, that, the other, make an effort. And you go through it in section 4, and the subsections are in there, and there's some sort of positive words, but I don't see any positive outcomes in terms of you can sort of put a figure on it and whatever. So gut feel wise, do you think that employers and companies in the borough are genuinely buying in, or have we got a lot more work to do, and do we need to throw more resources? Because I'm keen that if you need more help to explain why it's a good thing, that you get it, because I think it is a really good thing that local employers look at our kids and whatever. And it's very easy to tick box exercise in terms of some companies probably, yeah, we throw in a couple of lines in the job advert, but they don't really follow it through. I mean, if you're happy to say, yeah, I think it's working and we are making, I think there's, in the end it said significant strides, but it's how to, there's no quantification of what significant strides are.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's really difficult to give a figure to that. Obviously, we're in the really early stages of progress being made. The work with commissioning, I think, is really important, because previously, where we've had the social value aspect of any commissioned service, it's always been comments made that have got no real impact. This is something we can really hold people applying for commissioned services to account for. There are lots of huge companies in Thurrock that could do so much with our young people. There are lots of really big companies with lots of financial backing that could really support our young people. And I think, you know, when we introduced this right back at the start in September, I think it was, the whole council was saying that this is really important, that this has teeth and it gets support. And I do think we do need support in really kind of championing our young people in Thurrock and saying, Thurrock is, you know, I do believe that Thurrock is really, you know, Thurrock is full of opportunities. We've got some really good, big employers. And actually, if we could get them on side and get them employing our young people, the opportunity for our young people to then pay back into, it would be really good. We just need a foot in the door. And I think that's been the difficult bit so far, is actually getting a foot in the door. So any help that we can get in promoting our young people, of course, we'd take.
Yeah, that's really good. I sort of sensed that was the case. I suppose I ought to ask the question, is the council doing as much as it should? Because we do, I mean, one of the areas where I understand it's really difficult to get good committed people are in the, and I'm going to call it the lower strata of care, and that's not meant to be demeaning, but it's a sort of more unexciting part of the job, if you like. And I know from a conversation I had with somebody who's looking for a role, and it's a young person, not one of our corporate, but he's looking for something to do that will be challenging and motivating. And I got talking to him, well, what about going into the care industry and helping support some of our, and it was, I never really thought about that, was the answer that came back. And hopefully myself and a colleague have put an introduction into that person, whether it ends up being for them or not, with somebody that provides care services. So I think because we were knowledgeable and we happened to meet somebody who was looking for a challenge, we were able to steer them in the right direction. But hopefully the council itself is doing it. But I would hope, and probably Vicky can take that on board, in terms of our marketing team, in terms of actually really pushing this and selling it on a day-to-day basis, that we've got some great kids in Thurrock, and we want them to stay in Thurrock, and we want them to contribute to Thurrock's future. You know, I think you think, and it sounds like you do, you need a little bit more help, I think we should pull out all the stops to make sure you get it.
I mean, any extra help from anybody, I think, focused in the right area is really important. And I think what also something we want to really push is that we want to offer meaningful and bespoke and tailor-made opportunities to our young people that take into account their specific skill set, that we're not just saying, oh, we've got a load of these roles that we can't fill, so let's just shove our young people. We want to be able to offer them a variety of roles, stuff that appeals to them, stuff where opportunities where they can see a future, where they're going to be interested. So yeah, any help we can get, and I think, you know, that's been probably I need to recognise that things don't move as quickly as I personally would like, and I'd like things to have been done and dusted, and I could kind of cross this off now and get on with other bits. But I think it's more about, I'd really like to get into some of them big employers and kind of get them to say, look, come on, you can help a lot more than you do.
Thank you. I've got a really basic question. Just wanted to know when will this actually be going through to be, unless I've missed it already, it already is, when is it actually going to be a locally protected characteristic in the council? Has it actually gone through yet? Is the date gone through, or? Hopefully not. Yes.
I believe it was presented to full council and was voted on and passed unanimously, and was presented by Councillor Hartstein a while ago. And I've taken it to cabinet as well. Yeah.
Okay, so it is actually part of our procedure now. Yes. I just wanted to confirm that. I did think it was, but it's still nice just to get it confirmed in that. And yeah, so thank you anyway. Councillor Rigby.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your report. I think that you are doing what you can, your efforts with regards to the employment. I think you're up against it because a lot of businesses just aren't taking on apprentices. And I think that's the difficulty, because it's very costly now to have apprentices. And I think that's going to be a struggle, really. You know, maybe some bigger businesses should be able to adapt, but I think it's just, I'm sure that you are doing your very best for it. I think it's just the environment, the economic situation at the moment is, you know, I'm talking to a lot of people that just aren't taking on apprentices, and they're cutting back on that area. So it is going to be a struggle, but, you know, keep on, because, you know, there will be openings, things change, the economy moves all the time, but I think that's probably going to be a bit of a problem for the time being. But commendable all the work you're doing, and I can see that you're doing your very best. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Just to say that there are also the two newly appointed managers of the Leaving Care Service. I'm going to say they'll aggressively, I think they'll tenaciously follow this up, I'm sure, and be able to report forward. And I think, you know, there is a real passion across children's services that we get really good outcomes for our young people. And I think one of the appealing things of working for Thurrock is, do you know what, there are big employers that we need to get hold of, and we need to hold them to account. So I'm really hopeful that going forward, we recognise that there are some companies that are really struggling financially, but there are some companies that are making an awful lot of money, and we want to get in on that act, really.
Yeah, Councillor Spate.
Sorry, yeah, I mean, it's not a question, it's just a suggestion and a thought that came in with what Liz just said. And it's about incentivising, and it's interesting, you know, you said you've got the bigger companies who are making money, but you've got the smaller ones that are struggling. Well, maybe we need to think, well, okay, can we help the smaller ones that are struggling? And of course, with our good friends in fostering who do a great, the council has made a notable decision to say, for example, if you foster a child, your council tax is taken away, and there's a financial incentive as well as a moral incentive. And I was going to have a dig later on, but I'll get it in now. We keep seeing on, I think, so I have 3 or 4 of these reports tonight, there's a thing that says Commissioner's comments. And I don't think, it doesn't seem to me the Commissioners seem to give a monkeys, because you never get a comment back from it. So, and we see the Commissioners scraping all our budgets absolutely down to the bottom. Well, maybe they could leave a little bit of meat on one of the bones somewhere, and then we could take some of that money and look at incentivising companies to actually look first at local young people, because if something needs to be done as a catalyst to make this work, then we shouldn't be shying away from the challenge of doing it. And if we need to try and find, you know, a tenth of 1% out of some budget somewhere that would actually in real terms probably help swing even if it's only a couple of jobs for young people with local companies, then that's, to me, is money well spent in this borough rather than just cutting. And, you know, I think we've got to grab hold of this, otherwise all this great work and this great and good idea, like a lot of things, will just fizzle out. So I just hope everybody takes that on board, and I think you're doing something really wonderful. I mean, the fact that it went to full council, the fact it was a motion, everybody's buying into it, so we've got to make it work and do whatever we can to make it work.
Yeah, do you want to reply to that? Sorry, no, okay, right. Yeah, I'd just like to second what Councillor Ruby said. Everyone's behind you on it, and Councillor Spate, everyone's behind you, what you're doing here, what you're trying to do here. We all support it. I would also like to say what Councillor Spate said about the Commissioner. It does feel sometimes that this committee's bottom of the ladder sort of thing when it comes to committees. But what we're doing here is trying, hopefully succeeding in some way, to help our children that have had a difficult start in life. So although it may be, it may not be, but it seems to come across as being bottom of the ladder sort of thing in importance, I think for many of us it's not. It's right up there near the top. And it would be nice now and then just to have a comment from a commissioner maybe. Anyway, any more questions? No? Okay. Right, recommendations. For the reasons set out in this report, the committee is recommended to review the progress made so far in implementing and give consideration to further actions that could be taken. Agreed? Provide appropriate challenge and support to officers to promote protected characteristics for our care experienced young people. Agreed? Oh, sorry, Councillor Spate.
Sorry, Mark, just on that first recommendation, might we maybe extend it and ask the executive to look at any way that they could provide some financial incentive to help the team out? It's only a few words on the end of there, but if we then take it, and I ask the executive, I mean the cabinet, who are clearly supportive of it, but they control the purse strings more than we do. I would ask if we could add that to it, if it was felt appropriate by other members.
I'm happy with that. I'm not sure we'll get anywhere with it, but I'm happy for it to be added. Are other members okay with that be added? Or not sure? Yeah? Okay. Right, well, yes, if we could add that, please. Thank you. Right, second one, I don't know if I read it out or not, sorry. Provide appropriate challenge and support to officers to promote protected characteristics for our care experienced young people. Agreed? Yeah, thank you. Item 8, Children Looked After and Youth Justice Report. Can I ask Claire Moore to present the report, please?
Good evening, everybody. So this report provides an overview of the Thurrock children who are looked after within the youth justice system in Thurrock. Those that are in custody, those receiving statutory intervention or diversion. The majority of children in care are from backgrounds of deprivation, poor parenting, abuse and neglect. These factors together create a range of emotional, social and behavioural difficulties, including antisocial and offending behaviour. Furthermore, certain childhood experiences, such as abuse by adults or time spent in public care, have been shown to be correlated with school exclusions and youth crime. So based on the above, it may therefore not be the fact of being in care that increases the risk of being drawn into youth justice system, but rather the type of childhood experiences. Considering the complex needs identified with children looked after, a degree of overrepresentation could be expected. The primary aim of the youth justice system is to prevent offending by all children and young people. Child first is the guiding principle for youth justice and views young people who offend as children rather than offenders. And the concept of child first guides the work of the Thurrock Youth Justice Service. The majority of children in care do not come into contact with the criminal justice system. Contact with the youth justice system is a particular issue for a small cohort of young people with care experience. The association between care and justice is an area of concern, particularly at the higher end of the youth justice system. So that is when children are prosecuted in the courts and are placed in detention. It is rare for children looked after to be referred for lower level crimes that can be dealt with using out-of-court disposals. Back in November 2018, the Ministry of Justice, the Home Office and the Department for Education wrote a protocol on reducing the unnecessary criminalisation of children looked after and care leavers. The Youth Justice Service has implemented the protocol that benefits children and young people. It helps children and young people maintain relationships and placement stability. It helps children's social care to implement the corporate parenting principles, coordinate services to promote positive outcomes for children looked after and care leavers, and reduce their unnecessary criminalisation. For criminal justice agencies, it will help reduce the burden of first-time entrants into the criminal justice system and reoffending by working in a multi-agency way, using the specialist seconded staff that we have of speech and language therapists, CAMS, probation, and drug and alcohol misuse, and also within the Youth Justice Service to deter young people from offending. Our strong corporate parenting ethos recognises the care system is not just about keeping children safe, but also about promoting recovery, resilience and well-being. This requires corporate parents to ensure that work across social care, placement providers, educational settings, health services, the police and other criminal justice partners prevents unnecessary criminalisation. That's all I'm going to read from the report. I think that gives you a sort of a brief overview. I'm making the assumption that everybody has read the report, so I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions, members? I'll start. I've only got one, really. Are crime levels going up or down with the children and young people in care? Is it a flow through it? Is it increasing or decreasing?
I think it's staying roughly the same, but the numbers are very low. We don't have a huge cohort across all of the youth justice system, but the numbers of looked after children are low.
Is that low nationally as well, or is it just in Thurrock? Are we doing exceptional, or is it just we're sort of with the rest of them?
I don't know, but I could find out.
It wouldn't hurt to find out, would it? So if you would, please, yeah. Anyone got any questions? Councillor Assistant, please.
It's not really a question, but just to say, I reckon it really is important to, obviously, as you fully understand, to keep the children away from the justice system, if at all possible. Because once down that criminalisation route, it's obviously it's a hard thing. It's much harder to step off it once you're on it than to stop getting onto it in the first place, if you see what I mean. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we do have a strong ethos around prevention and preventing offending behaviours, because we understand that it can be a difficult road.
Councillor Spate?
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning as well, and I know Vicky's very much involved in it, that we're literally, I think it's tomorrow we start our work on countering child exploitation, which is very much, I think, going to be a big important work. And I wish everybody well with that, and it's really well worthwhile exercise. So again, well done to all those who are with that, and particularly Vicky for championing it.
Not to put you on the spot this time, would you like to say anything? Because you may have had first-hand experience of this with children you've looked after or young persons or colleagues of yours may have.
I'm lucky to say that, yeah, I haven't really had much experience. Actually, I did a long while ago, but it was a long time ago. But even then, I remember the amount of support that my looked after child had. Yeah, from the services, and that did keep them. They did end up going to court because it was one of my early cases, but and that was quite a long time ago. So I think there's a lot more work that's being done now to stop that from happening, so that they don't end up on that, as you say, on that road. But that's the only experience that I've had, and that was a long time ago. So.
Thank you for that. I always think it's good to get first-hand experience because we can learn from it, hopefully. Any more comments or questions? No? Okay, thank you. Right, recommendations then. For the reasons set out in this report, the committee is recommended to note the work undertaken to safeguard children looked after and divert them the youth justice system and understand the context around why children looked after are more likely to commit crimes. Agreed?
I do think it needs rewording though, because it doesn't make grammatical sense.
I agree, it doesn't sound right, does it? Can we agree in principle for now? Yeah. Thought it might be me saying it wrong, but yeah. Anyway, right, next. Members scrutinise the data and work being carried out with this cohort of young people and provide challenge to the service as required on how, as corporate parents, we provide appropriate services to keep children looked after out of the youth justice system to promote good outcomes. That's better. Agreed? Yeah, much better, thanks. Item 9, Children Looked After Health Report. Can I ask June Freed to present the report, please?
I have done that right. Hello, I'm June Freed and I'm a designated lead nurse for safeguarding within Mid and South Essex ICB. So I'm going to be introducing the report and I'm assuming that people here have read it. And then after I've celebrated a few of the successes, I'm then going to hand over to Claire and Sharon here who will also contribute. So there are a few successes and it's really good to come here tonight to share those with you. One being that there is a children in care placement notification that has been established between children in care providers and the ICB, the Integrated Care Board, and the local authorities to ensure that our children, as Sharon referred to earlier, those that are out in and those that are in out, so we have a movement of children who are in care to make sure that information is passed between the agencies to ensure that they get the best service that they can get. And that's also had an enhanced pathway added to it where we will have those direct conversations where we've got children with complex health needs to make sure that the appropriate package of care is available at the time when they come into our area or when they're moving out. And if needed, placements will be revisited and looked at to make sure that there may even be a pause to ensure that correct services are there. It's very difficult once you move children if you then discover that the package of care is not in place, if we think about community services, for example, to then pull that together almost in a time of crisis. So that's a real success. And secondly, you'll see in the report that there's been real improvements to dental services for children. This isn't just for children in care, but this is for all children across the Mid and South Essex footprint. There's a dental pathway that's been established. There's lots of dental work going on between the dental healthcare system and the ICB and other public health groups to go into schools to start working on appropriate dental hygiene from a very young age, because we know that has a huge impact on neglect and outcomes, poor outcomes for our children, not just children in care, but all children. So it's really exciting that children in care can access that service from a very early age. And finally, just before I hand over to Claire, I just wanted to say that we work very closely with our GPs and our primary care practices. This isn't just the clinicians, but this is the whole of the primary care service to really equip them with an understanding of what it may be like to be a child in care, what your early experiences may have been like, and how they can adapt and modify the appointment system, the services, and I guess the input that they're giving to these young children. So I'll hand over to Claire now.
Hello, last time I was here, I was describing the task and finish work underway to tackle poor performance with regard to initial health assessments. I described desktop reviews of models that were in place across England and our planned engagement with them. And I believe when I last met with you, I was describing that we were drafting options appraisals with a view to presenting a business case to the ICB executive in January. We did meet that deadline. There's a new commissioning board at the executive now, where a case was presented for a hybrid nurse and paediatrician model with a proposal for additional investment. The rationale is included in the update. The proposal was approved by the executive board, and our plans are to work with the community collaborative during 25-26 to implement that new model. I will add, whenever you propose a new model, you always assume the workforce are going to be there. So it's not to say that it's resolved or that we won't experience some drawbacks, but after, I am aware it's been a long time that this has been a challenge. So it does feel as though we have achieved a milestone. I'll hand over to Sharon now.
Thank you. Obviously, assuming people have read the report, just for the benefits of those people that aren't aware of what community services are provided by the collaborative within Thurrock, we've got the 0 to 19 health visiting service and school nursing service. We've got the children's community service, and we've also got the CAM service, which will be in a separate report. So just the highlights from the NELFT element of the report. We have over the last 4 months found funding and funded a extra 0.5 of a lead senior named nurse, which is helping to kind of drive and improve the quality of the looked after children health provision within Thurrock. Her name is Hannah, and she's very experienced, and she's busy leading on the areas of the work streams that are outlined there, which are NELF specific and Thurrock specific, around working on improving the quality of healthcare for looked after children around the there's 15 work streams within NELF, and the work is going well within those. Those are all listed. Statutory health assessments, so the kind of initial health assessments and the reviews. The review health assessments are delivered by the looked after children's nurses employed via NELFT and under NELFT, and obviously the IHAs are delivered by the paediatricians in NELFT as well. As you've heard, we have been successful in getting a new model agreed, working with the ICB on that, and we'll be working with looking at the mobilisation plan around implementing that over the next 12 months. There is also an interim position on that, which was where we were given extra funding for in order to get on top of the IHA backlog. And as I mentioned earlier, I can announce that for Thurrock young people in Thurrock, we were 100% IHAs within 20 days for February, and that's been around 70%, which is I think is your target since November. So that's a marked improvement on where we were. Obviously, we are as a provider, don't have responsibility for some of those children placed outside of Thurrock by Thurrock, but I think that is a good news story, and progress is very much forward around that. So we're feeling a lot more positive about that, and hopefully you are too. There's some feedback in there from our looked after children's nurse, our LAC nurses, around the surveys that they do with children and young people when they're doing the health reviews, and they're the same workforce that we will add to undertake the new model around IHAs. And I think what we'd hope to see around that is consistency. So you'd have a nurse who is doing the the initial health assessment when they come in to care, and also they'll be doing the review. So the first time they see the nurse won't be at their health review, they'll be part of that, and hopefully consistency-wise we hope to get them to see that through wherever possible, so that they get to know the nurses as well. I think just the other thing to point out is obviously from the the kind of assessments, some of the kind of the three most common diagnoses that we have looked after children within Thurrock are around the neurodevelopmental disorders, epilepsy and asthma. And there's an explanation of that in there. What else? Anything else? Yeah, I think that's the highlights from the report, unless anybody's got any other questions.
Thank you very much for your report, all three of you. I'm no good with names, sorry. I just want to just sort of mention one thing first, the IHAs. So from November last year to January, they was roughly 70%, maybe above. And then February, it actually hit 100%. That's excellent, because, yes. Simple reason, because my first corporate parent meeting was in July, and I couldn't make it, I was unavailable. And Councillor Watson was subbed to be here, and she highlighted to me about this, and she said, this is probably going to take years to correct and get where we want to get to. So to get there within one municipal year, say, is excellent. What is the reason why we've done it? We've achieved this, can you say?
Well, there were several factors, but the main factor is that obviously services are commissioned for a certain number of IHAs, and that was about 100. And what we found was by the beginning of 2019-20, we were seeing almost 200 a year. So, but we had no more resource. So the issue was the kind of rise in numbers within Thurrock and across the patch, because obviously we do. We have ones that come into area as well. There's not just the ones you're putting into care, because the care figures for Thurrock actually stay quite steady. But obviously you had a lot of homes within the area, and they were having a lot more looked after children coming into the area. So we were doing double the amount of IHAs with the same funding to do 100. So obviously it's about looking at efficiencies there, which is what we've done, and obviously working with the ICB in order to look at where we can get the most impact on the issue, and that was around actually having some more. Well, we actually used GP locum, who is working very effectively in order to top up our capacity. So that's the reason, and obviously that was the interim until we get the new model in place, where we'll have the extra capacity, which has now been calculated given our current demand.
You're obviously hopeful, and as we all are. Do you think it realistic that we'll stick at the 100% or very close to it?
Well, I mean, the reason is not always for the 20-day. There can be several reasons why we don't achieve the 20-day assessment. That could be obviously the young person moves in and out of area quickly, or the young person, we don't get the paperwork through on time, or it's about capacity. So there can be several reasons why that doesn't happen, and some of them we have control of, and others we don't. So I think the target, and correct me if I'm wrong, my local authority colleagues, but I think the target that we're supposed to be running at is 70%. Is it 70%? Done within 20 days? I think it's 70%. So we're above target. I mean, in an ideal world, you'd want to run at 100%, but no target's often at 100%. I think it's at 70%. So we're exceeding that, and we've actually been achieving 70% since. Can't see without my glasses on. Since October. So I mean, obviously we strive to deliver targets, but. And there's no foreseeable reason, unless you have a massive influx, that with the capacity that's been planned for, that we won't start to deliver on our targets on a more consistent manner.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Yeah, 70% is a massive improvement from 24.5%. So that's obviously a real good news story. Any questions or comments from anyone? No? Okay. Oh, sorry, Councillor Heath.
It's just about the dental programme, really. It's just a comment. It is pleasing to see 98.14% of the population has been seen by a dentist, given that, you know, there is issues with national health dentists and everything, and getting one. So that was going to be one of my questions, because I had missed this when I read the report. So yeah, it's really pleasing to see.
Yeah, Councillor Rigby.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, my question was also around dental care. I think it's a really good plan. Councillor Heath plugged on it, but I don't. 98% seeing a dentist, because I still know lots of people with children that can't find a dentist in the area to register. So that would be one of my things. But the prevention is really good, and even the family hubs within Thurrock now, they are doing lessons on toothbrushing, tooth care. The holiday programs, the HAF programs, are doing things on tooth care and giving leaflets out and free toothbrushes and toothpaste. So the prevention is really good. It is also linked in with diet. A lot of children are still having too high sugary diets, so that does link in with that. And again, that's something we've been working on here. So the prevention is really good, but they do still need the checkups with the dentists. Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, there are still some children that are struggling to get a dentist in the area. I don't know if you have any updates on that, please.
Can I just say something first? Yeah, as Councillor Rigby said, 98% they've been seen by a dentist, but are they actually registered with a dentist as well? Or is it just seen because they are LACs?
Certainly, we could get that clarification for you. I've interpreted the figures as 98% of children who are looked after have seen a dentist. We still do have a dental crisis, and that's going to require a significant level of work, because as you've quite rightly highlighted, there's something around lifestyle choices, but also just greater awareness about oral hygiene and what that means for children. And certainly across the East, I know there's a number of different initiatives to both increasing the number of dentists that can offer NHS care, but also making sure that we're not just prioritising those in urgent and emergency scenarios, that actually there's a significant prevention piece for those that are not quite poorly yet, but actually could be. So we'll seek the clarity regarding that particular question, because I think it's something that needs to be, we need to retain oversight of it, actually. It's such an important piece of work, and it links quite closely with our kind of healthy weight, and then that links into kind of the obesity agenda and kind of what that looks like for health. So if that's okay, one of the recommendations perhaps is to come back with that figure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you, Councillor Rigby. I think that's a really good question as well. So thanks for that. Any more questions or comments from anyone? Foster carers like to say anything?
I can say that at our support group, we've had twice now somebody come in to talk to us about oral health for our children, especially the younger children that have come into care. I know from personal experience that, teeth are one of the big neglects when they've come into care. And most of my children have had to go in to have quite a few teeth removed from ages 6, 7. So, yeah, it is something that's very prevalent when children come into care from neglect.
Thank you for that input again. The most common health diagnoses for children in care are neurodevelopmental disorders, epilepsy and asthma. It's a horrible subject, but does mental health come into this at all? Is it near the top of the list at all?
I think that's also listed on there. I'm sorry, my colleague who leads on mental health, Tina Russell is doing a separate report on looked after children. You'd be surprised, actually. I mean, not mental health and mental well-being is an issue, but kind of mental illness is not significant amongst LAC. I mean, it's some of that complexities around trauma, which are often needing to be dealt with.
If I worded that wrong, I apologise, of course, but it was meant in the right heart. Any more questions or comments? No? Okay, right. Go to recommendations. Right, bear with me, please, quite a few of them. And hopefully they're worded perfectly. Corporate Parenting Committee to continue to receive assurance and updates on the work being undertaken to improve initial health assessments for Thurrock children placed in Thurrock or across Mid and South Essex. Agreed? Corporate Parenting Committee will be cited on and provided with an opportunity to comment on the revised Southend, Essex and Thurrock Looked After Children Health Strategy 2025 to 2027. Agreed? Corporate Parenting Committee will continue to receive regular updates from NELFT on the health of Thurrock children in care and the services available to them, including access to specialist services, mental and emotional wellbeing support, and impact of service improvements on health outcomes. Agreed? Corporate Parenting Committee will receive updates on NELFT's progress in improving its approach to children looked after, including the impact of the newly appointed named professionals' roles in strengthening clinical leadership and the implementation of NELF's strategy for children looked after, including co-production with young people to shape services. Before I do that one, sorry, could just give some more detail on the named professionals, please, and their roles?
Yes, so they're listed in the document. So obviously they're named professionals within the NELFT organisation that their focus is on coordinating and developing looked after children's services, and also kind of giving advice and expertise around that. Obviously, one of the obviously with the named nurse, as I mentioned, one of the good news is we didn't have a 8A named nurse within Thurrock, and we have now. We found the funding for that, so that's one of the kind of things that's been increased over the last year. And obviously we've got named doctors as well that take a lead and make sure that obviously LAC children's health issues, it's a paediatrician, are in the forefront of obviously their care when they come in within the service.
Okay, thank you for that. I just thought it'd be nice to just to clear it up in layman's terms, just for the committee members and myself. Is that agreed anyway, that one? Yes, thank you. Sorry, was that it, or was there one more? Sorry. That was it, I believe. Okay, that's good then. Right. Right. Item 10, Annual Corporate Parenting Reports 2024-2025, pages 85 to 96 of the agenda. Can I ask the Democratic Services Officer to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. As members may be aware, obviously, when members are elected, we invite members onto a variety of different training sessions. A few years ago, it was introduced that along with the annual ONS report, which is presented to full council, that as all members are corporate parents, that an annual report for the Corporate Parenting Committee be produced. This is in front of members this evening and highlights the positive work that the committee has done for the last municipal year. That's all really I have to say on it. It's obviously within the report, so I'm happy to take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Any questions? Yeah, Councillor Spate.
Yeah, I'm just a slight concern in terms of, and I do appreciate the brevity, but this is a summary of effectively 12 months' work, although we're only in month 11, well, so we are in month 12 of it. no, month 11 of it. And my concern would be, having sort of dug out the commissioners earlier on for not showing a lot of interest, would this capture the imagination as a report of A, the good things that we've done, and B, the targets that we think there are going forward? I mean, it's, you know, the first 2 or 3 pages are just statutory bump about what a corporate parent is, which everybody should know anyway if you're on the council. And I just think as the actual report itself, maybe it should have some appendices, I'm trying to think the plural of it, appendices of some of the other reports that we've taken during the year, even if it's only by way of a link to what is already on the website. I think there's clearly in your summary, Mark, you've highlighted the good things that are there, but there's not a huge amount of depth behind it, and that's not suggesting there's any insincerity there. It's brevity is important. And I get that if you suddenly got an annual report that was that thick and full of all loads of paper, you're not going to read it either. But I think we possibly fall a little bit somewhere in the middle here, and certainly in terms of target setting, I think at the end of the year, we should say, yeah, this is what we've done, this is what we've achieved, this might be what we've missed, and this is what we think, whatever the legacy committee is next year, these are challenges that we think you should be looking to address, whether it's the same people who are here now or whether it's different people. So it's not meant to be critical or cynical, but I just wonder whether we're a little bit too lightweight in terms of what we're presenting to try and grab some, and as we were talking earlier on with Trevor and his team, there are things there which are really positive, but they're going to need action and they're going to need support. And I'm not sure that the urgency that we've heard of tonight and the energy that we need, we believe needs turning on or focusing on a particular challenge is portrayed in a report like this. And I'm sorry to say that. I'm not trying to be, I'm happy to sign it off and I'll nod and say it's there. But I think we've done a lot more as a group of people. And I think, well, they're gone now, but people like the Young Voices, or everybody on the other side of this room, colleagues here, have done a phenomenal amount of work. And I'm not sure, and as we've just said in the last report, we've achieved tremendous progress on some things. Are we underselling ourselves? I'll just leave that to you to think about.
No, I'm quite happy to comment on what you said because, Councillor Spade, because I agree. I've looked at previous reports on that, and they've been roughly the same amount of context in them. It may be because every year we have a new corporate parent share. That seems to happen all the time. It may not happen this year. We'll see. There is no negatives in there either, which I've been critical of in the past, because when there's always loads of positives, we never see any negatives, and I think the negatives should be highlighted because we learn from negatives. So maybe as a negative to myself, I haven't done that either. We can look at it, and hopefully next year it'll be a better report. That's all I can really say. So, any more questions, anyone?
What I would say, Mark, is to absolutely and utterly endorse the last line. Thank you to officers, democratic service and the outside organisations for all their hard work. I think everybody would absolutely endorse that, and it's really important we say thank you.
Yeah, and to fellow members on the committee as well. But yeah, officers and everyone, yeah, thank you for everything you've done in this municipal year for what you do, your departments. Recommendations that the contents of the corporate parenting annual report 2024-2025 be noted. Noted, yeah, thank you. Item 11, the work programme. The work programme is on pages 97 to 100 of the agenda. Could the Democratic Services Officer please take us through the work programme?
Thank you, Chair. As members will be aware, this is the last meeting that we have of this municipal year. So at this stage, I'm just looking for any items that members may like to see coming back again, or if there's any other items that members would like to kind of put forward, so we can maybe just a few ideas from this committee to maybe advise any the future committee of reports either to look at for the next year. Thank you.
I'll give people time to have a little look and then any comments. just one thing I'd like to say. Councillor Rigby is doing was doing a work and finish group for children. I'm going to word this wrong, and what was it for, please? It was obesity. I didn't want to say that word in case it wasn't. Could that be looked after children as well? I'm sure it covers that anyway, but could maybe that be looked at in the future? Because if it does, I'm sure there'll be no difference to these children as other children in the borough, but just be included in it maybe. So, anyone else? Yeah, Councillor Spate.
I mean, obviously there's been a significant announcement today about the structure and what's going to happen with the health service, and you know, I should certainly not be, if the ICB goes, I will certainly be not shedding any tears. But I don't know whether what may or may not happen in the next couple of months when the white paper if a white or however comes out, whether that would actually have any impact on what we do, or do we just suck it and wait and see, I suppose? We can't really influence it, can we?
I don't think we can have any influence on that at all, but we'll wait and see to see what materialises, yeah. Yeah, of course.
Sorry, Chair, yes. Just moving on from what you were suggesting about the childhood obesity report, it could maybe be brought back somehow and linked in with the sort of dental care issues as well for looked after children, because it's all linked in. So that might be interesting to try and do something around those times.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, great idea. Yeah, of course.
I would like to recommend that we present something around the learning from initial health assessments. So, because actually what we should be doing is thinking about how it informs commissioning across health education and care. I think that would be a helpful exercise in terms of, I know we've still got lots of work to do in terms of performance, so there's always going to be that update on how well we're doing with that, but there's something about the so what from those health assessments. How are we responding as a health and care system?
Can we do that, Democratic Services? Yes, is that okay? Thank you. Okay, I believe that's it then. So thank you to everyone. That concludes, thank you to everyone. That concludes the business of the meeting this evening, and I now declare the meeting closed at 8:32 p.m. Thank you all.